Hello and welcome to day 13 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm releasing a new Cricut tutorial every day for the whole of October. Today's project is another handmade card, and it is this nice filigree card design. So we've got a pretty border on this, which we'll cut with a Cricut machine, and then in the middle you'll have this empty square where you can put anything you want. But if you want to make one exactly like this, I have included a free card making printable for these decoupage pumpkins. Now these pumpkins, they're all different layers, so it's a really 3D card. And the best part is I even cut the pumpkins out with my Cricut machine. So keep watching to find out how to do that and how to create the filigree border effect as well. Here is the filigree card front, which I have downloaded and opened in Cricut Design Space. By default, it loads in at 8 by 8 inches, and I need to make mine a little bit smaller because the card blank that I'm using is a tiny bit smaller than that. And also I want to be able to cut it out of A4 paper, and with 8 inches, that's just that tiny bit too big. So I'm going to change the width and height box to 7.75 inches instead. And now that should cut out of A4 paper. Now you could put whatever you want in the middle of the card front, but I'm going to use the pumpkins decoupage that I showed you at the start of this video. So go into upload and then choose upload image. Drag and drop in the printable once you've downloaded it from my website, and then click complex and continue. I'm going to zoom out a bit with the buttons on the top right so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. Now if I was to print and cut this as it is now, all it would cut out is the very outline of the whole rectangle. It's not going to cut out the pumpkins, and that's because at the moment it's reading all of the white in the background as part of the image. So we need to erase all of this white. To do that, click the magic wand tool in the top left, and then go over to your image and just click on part of the white background. And it will delete it, so now all that white is gone and it's gone transparent. You know it's transparent because it's got this checkerboard effect. So now when you print and cut this with the Cricut, it's going to cut around all of the shapes, all of the pumpkins and the leaves, but it's also going to cut around all of the logo and this tiny text underneath, and we don't want that. So go into the eraser tool on the top left and click and drag to make it as big as it goes. Then just go over all of this bit you don't want to cut with the eraser. I'm going to zoom in a bit and just get rid of all of this, and make sure you get every single little bit, because if you leave even a tiny bit, then your Cricut will try and cut that out, and we don't want it to do that. So mine's being a little bit slow. It's because I'm recording my screen and it's a little bit too much for my poor little old computer. So I think what I'm going to do is pause my recording, go ahead and delete all of this at the top and also the bit at the bottom, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, so now I've erased that top and bottom. This is nearly ready, but I just want to erase this red border around the square because I don't want that to be cut out with my Cricut machine. The reason I added the square onto the template was that because without it, when I tried erasing all of the white, like we did earlier, it was also taking out the background pattern, so these leaves and things, and I don't want it to do that, so I just added this red as a bit of a barrier between the two. But now I want to get rid of that, so go to the magic wand tool again on the left, and then just click in that red border, and it will disappear. There we are. It's actually left, if I zoom in, you probably can't see this, but it's left at the tiniest little bit of red around each of the corners. So I'm just going to erase those tiny bits of red because I don't want my Cricut to try and cut that out. It'll probably just tear the paper. So just each of these corners, there's that tiny little bit of red. Just click to get rid of it. There we go. Alright, so now I can zoom out, and this is ready to click continue at the bottom. I want to make sure I save it as a print then cut image. So I'm going to print this on my printer and then feed it into my Cricut machine to cut everything out. So click save, and this might take a little while. So I've tried it a few times and each time it takes about 45 seconds. It's because the printable image is such high quality and such high resolution that it's just going to take Cricut a little while to load it into the system. So be patient and just wait for it to load. It'll get there. Okay, there we go. So now I can click on the image and then press insert images. Now by default this is going to load really big and it's taking its time. Here we go. So I need to make it smaller. Zoom out if you need to with the buttons on the bottom left, and then just click and drag to make it smaller until it's the square image in the top left is the size you want it to go on your card front. So I'm going to leave a little bit of orange around the edge on the square, and then I think that will be a good size. So if I move this away from the card front, you can see that I've got a little warning triangle in my layers panel, and it's telling me that this is too big to print then cut. So with print and cut you do have a limited size that Cricut will let you do it, and this is just that little bit too big. So what I need to do is I need to split it into two separate parts, and then it will print on two different pieces of paper. So go into shapes and choose a square. I'm going to bring this down over the design and then click the padlock icon to unlock the proportions of the square. Now I can't just do this to split it in two because you see it's cutting off the bottom of that pumpkin. So what I'm going to do is just put that one there and then choose another square and drag this one over the rest. So what you're doing is you're covering half of the design with your rectangles. I need to join these two rectangles together, so select one in the layers panel, press Ctrl on your keyboard and choose the other one, and then down the bottom of the layers press weld. And now you've got one solid shape. So we're going to use this to cut the pumpkin decoupage sheet in two. So choose the square layer, so the one we've just made, press Ctrl on your keyboard and choose the decoupage layer. Then down the bottom of the layers panel press slice. So what this has done, you see you've got these slice results. You don't need the grey ones anymore, so delete both of those layers and then you're left with this. So now your decoupage sheet comes in two layers. If I move them you can see what we've done. So now we've got this in two pieces. The warning triangles have gone from the side, so now it's ready to print. I'm going to go ahead and click Make It and show you how to print. So I've got my two sheets where I cut it in half, and then underneath I've got my card front, and I'm going to change that to A4 paper. If you're new to Print Then Cut, I have a separate video on how to send it to your printer for the best effect and how to change your printer settings to make sure you get a really good quality print. And then also in that separate video I go through how to load the paper into your Cricut to get it all to cut out nicely and how that whole process works. So if you're not sure how to print then cut, then follow the link in the description of this video to my other one on how to print then cut, and then follow those steps, get everything printed and cut out, and then we'll jump into assembling our card. Here are all of my pieces cut out, including the card front and the pumpkin decoupage layers. So you can see I've put my two layers, just one on top of the other, and then I've got my 8x8 inch base card here, well 7.75. So I cut this out so that I could do it on A4 paper, so it's a tiny bit smaller than my card. So I could either stick it up against the edge and then use a craft knife to just trim off the excess along the top and bottom, or what I think I'm going to do is just put it in the middle so I've got that really thin white border around the edge. I think that looks quite nice against the orange. Okay, so first I'm going to stick the two orange layers together. And for that, I'm going to use foam pads to create a nice bit of depth. So turn the pretty border piece upside down and then add your foam pads. Mine are quite big, so I'm just going to cut them in half. And then add these to the back. So you want to make sure you've got a good amount of foam, especially if you're doing a larger card like mine is. So if you don't add enough, then these edges might start sagging a bit and it won't look so good. So I'm just adding a nice amount to the edges. You also want to put some foam pads in the middle section of the square, again so that it doesn't sag, especially if you're going to be adding your decoupage to the other side, as that'll get quite heavy with all the layers. So we don't want it to cause this orange piece to sag in the middle. Cut some more foam. Okay, that should be enough. So now I can peel the top pieces off to release the sticky side of these foam pads. Once I've done that, I can turn it around and I'm going to stick it onto the square that's all filled in and make sure I line it up perfectly along the edges. So gently lie it down to start with so that you can pick it up and move it if you need to. But when you're happy with it, push down to get all of those bits of foam firmly stuck. The next thing to do is to stick this onto the base card, and I'm going to use double-sided tape for that because I don't want this to get too thick that it'll be really expensive to post. So I've got a double-sided tape runner and I can just go down the edge. Oh no, I think my tape runner's just run out. It has! That's inconvenient. Okay, I also have a roll of double-sided tape. So let's just carry on. So a bit of extra tape will make all the difference. So I've got my card base. I'll just make sure it opens up the right way. And then I'll stick this so that I've got that tiny white gap around each edge. And that's the base part done. So now you could add whatever you want in the middle here. You don't have to add these pumpkins. You could put something else you've cut with your Cricut machine, or maybe a die cut decoupage, or you could even do some stamping on there. So it really is a blank canvas for you to put whatever you want in the middle of your card. I'm going to add the pumpkins there, and to start with, I'm going to need the square bit, and that's going to sit in the middle like that. So for this layer I'm going to use double-sided tape. So it's got my tape here, and I'll put a bit down all of the edges all the way down. So I've got tape on each edge. So now I can just line this up in the middle of this square and stick it to my base card. I've got a bit of overlapping tape there. Tuck that in and just put it in the middle and push it down. And now we're going to add the decoupage layers, and this works by putting them on in size order with the biggest one first. So that's the one with all of these pumpkins on. You use 3D foam pads again, but for this one I'm going to use slightly different foam pads. So these ones are really narrow. They're really not an awful lot more in thickness than a piece of card, and that's because I don't want my handmade card to get so thick that it'll cost a load of money to post, because obviously you pay based on thickness. So I've got one thick layer of 3D-ness, which is where I stuck the filigree border on, but for the decoupage I'm going to go a bit more subtle with my thinner foam pads. I'm going to turn the layer upside down, and I'm going to add the foam to the back. I peeled all these bits off. I can turn it upside down, or the right way up even, and then stick it onto the square so that the patterns line up exactly. And for this one, as it's got bits that go along the edge, I find that's the best bit to line up, because you want to make sure those edge parts are perfectly straight with each other. First layer done, let's move on to the next one, which is this one with the 2 pumpkins. So I'm going to do the same thing again, turn it over and add the foam pads and then peel the tops off of the pads. So here's this piece ready to stick, and I've also gone ahead and put the foam on all the other pieces just to make this go a bit quicker. So once again, just line it up with what's already on the design below and then push down to seal. And keep doing this for the other layers as well. So we've got one more pumpkin here. So I'll put that one on. And then the 2 leaves at the bottom. There we are. Okay, so that's the pumpkins done. There's just a few other little bits. So we've got this leaf from the top left. And then these tiny little leaves as well to go on behind the pumpkins. Just going to try and make sure I put these on the right ones. Here we are. And then there we go. That is our Halloween or fall autumn decoupage card with a fancy filigree border all finished. So you can see it opens up really nicely. And we've got all of these layers on the pumpkins. But because I used those thinner foam pads, this will actually just still go in a regular envelope to be posted. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to head on over to my blog to download the free decoupage file and the free SVG cutting file for the border. If you like tutorials like this, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have loads more card making tutorials on there, and I'm releasing a new video every day in October full of Halloween designs. So check out my other videos. I hope you enjoy them and thank you for watching.